Okay. Dr. Talbot graduated in veterinary medicine from the University of Montreal in 2008. She joined High Life as a one-staff veterinarian in 2008, and then she is now the director of animal health. Her work primarily focuses on health, production, welfare, and biosecurity of the various divisions of the company, like multiplication, commercial production, slaughter plant, truck wash, research and development, etc. She oversees the veterinary needs of High Life herds in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, I never know how to say that, and North Dakota. She's also on the board of directors of the Canadian Association of Swine Veterinarians since 2011. So thank you very much for agreeing to talk here in the symposium today.
Thank you. Can you hear me well? Okay. Well, thank you very much for inviting me here and talking about two of my favorite topics, biosecurity and, unfortunately, PED. So I'm really glad with the speakers ahead of me. I hope my speaker will really flow well and answer maybe some of the questions. So I wanted to talk about more biosecurity, but breaking it down in three parts, because I think we need to change a little bit our discussion around biosecurity. So what is biosecurity? It's bioexclusion, biocontainment, and biomanagement. Bioexclusion, I think it's what we talk the most about. It's everything a farm do to not get a disease in. Very well understood. Biocontainment, I know for me, that's one thing I'm really focusing on. It's everything we do to not get disease out of a farm, ahead of a break. We need to start thinking of what can we do to prevent disease from spreading if we do get them. And then biomanagement, very important when you do get PD, it's everything you do within the farm to help eradicate. It will be helping to not spread the disease within the same population. So to fight PED, we need the three of them. So first, we don't want PED. We do everything we can to not get PED in the farm. Sometimes we have outbreaks. So then biocontainment is critical. Once you do have PED, you don't want to spread that to the rest of your system. You don't want to spread it to your neighbors. And then you need to eliminate it in as little time as you can, and that's with biomanagement. So why do biosecurity matters? Why are we talking so much about biosecurity? I think we've covered it a little bit already today, the cost of the disease. We do not want, it's expensive. And we're talking about PD today, but you can apply everything I'm saying to other disease, like PRRS. We want also to control the spread. We want to eliminate disease, and we want to manage them at a herd level. So all of that, that's the role of biosecurity. And then as the saying goes, 1 ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That is so true when it comes to disease prevention. And we see biosecurity as expensive in our industry, and it is. We need to invest in infrastructures, in people, in protocols, in trucks, in truck wash. But all of that is cheaper than some of the numbers that Dr. Willis just presented. So how good our biosecurity needs to be. So if we think of bioexclusion, the one we talk the most about, everything we do to prevent disease entry, it's usually based on a risk approach. We'll look at where is our highest risk of getting the disease and where is the highest impact. And that's where we'll invest money and time to prevent it. Boar stud, I'm sure there's no question around the room, those have to be protected. Multiplier herd makes sense. Sow barn, commercial sows, that makes sense. We know the impact of a disease in those herds impact the downstream flow of pigs. A multiplier that break has a huge financial impact for that producer, but also potentially impact all the herds that receive from that multiplier. Boar stud, I don't have to describe what happens if a boar stud break with a disease. It just goes down the flow very quickly. So we cannot afford any break there, so we put all our money toward protecting them with good reason. But what about those finishing barn we just talked about? What about nursery finishing? What about the grower finisher? Should we consider them as potentially having to invest more time and money to prevent? Maybe not all of them, but what about a finishing in a very high pig dense area? So I'm going to give you a real example here. So this is one of my area in Manitoba, southeast. Very challenging for PD when it happens. What you're looking at is about 5 miles, 5 kilometers, 8, I lost the screen here. Not sure. So 8 kilometers here, stretch, 25,000 sows, 20,000 plus nursery space, and 10,000 finishing in that little circle there. Massive pig production, thank you. And the little red dot there is a finishing barn. It's about a third of a mile away from that big sow barn, 6,000 plus sows. So what do you think, if we're talking about biosecurity, does this finishing barn deserve to be maybe higher biosecurity than some of other barns? Should we have shower in, shower out facility there? Should we bring a trailer from the slaughter plant to go pick up more market hogs from this finishing? What happens if they do break with PED? What happened to that sow barn that is the neighbors? Very close neighbor, we can almost throw a rock at it. What happened to all the other sow barns that are within very close proximity? So I think this is a debate we need to start having. And I can tell you for us, for our system, we consider that as high risk. We don't want any disease there as much as we don't want them in our sow barn. Because it's a domino effect. As soon as you introduce something in that finishing barn, about 8,000 pigs, the whole area goes down. And we don't want that. Now, biocontainment. So what is it? We said it's everything we do to prevent disease from getting out of a barn. Okay, it makes sense once you know you have PD, we put biocontainment measure in place. Well, we'll talk about that later. But we need to have some level of it ahead of an outbreak, because by the time we know disease is in a barn, we're too late. And I'll show you an example of that. So what we want to do is minimize what's coming out as much as possible. If we cannot, we have to disinfect, clean it whenever possible. And then we have to consider where it's going after. And that would be for anything. That could be people traffic, trailers, tools. What about your PD positive pigs now, if we talk about biocontainment? Where are you going to place them? Close to which barn? In which area? Whose barn is it going to be? Your own system or somebody else? And sometimes you don't have a choice, don't get me wrong. But I think those questions need to be answered, and we need to look at them carefully. In my mind, PD is not a single herd problem. It's not a single producer problem. We're all in it together. And one's management decision will impact a lot of people. So a producer has PD, and the way he decides to handle PD will impact not only his neighbors, but also where he the area he decides to move PD pigs to, and also the whole industry. Because now if we start moving PD pigs around, what happened to our transport, our truck wash, our slaughter plant? We just service providers, we just accumulate a number of contact points, and then PD just starts circulating. So here's the scenario. It's a PD case, and I would say probably very typical. I went with a slightly longer timeline, but believe me, this is real. Contrary to what people think, is the day we diagnose the disease is the day the disease to the barn. This is a false assumption. By the time you diagnose any disease, you're late. And with PD, yeah, maybe sometime we catch it very quickly, maybe 3 to 4 days, who knows. But I've seen more often than not 7 to 10 days. So in this case, it's a finishing barn. Let's say day 1, PD entered the farm. Day 2, the staff goes in, nothing special. Day 3, feed delivery. Then the feed truck, where does it go? 3 more farms right after that. We don't know yet that farm has PD though. Day 4, maintenance. They have to bring some special tools in, and then what do they do with those tools? They're expensive, so they bring them back into their truck, they bring them back into their shop, and then who knows where after that. Day 5, still, PD is in, but we don't know yet. Dead stock pickup, and then what happened with the dead stock pickup service truck? Then it goes to 2 more farms, the same day. Day 6, no event. Day 7, we're shipping to market. Again, no clinical signs noted so far, and we have a partial load. So that single farm doesn't have enough for a full load, so we load half of the trailer, and then we go to another farm, load another half, and then we go to market. Finally, day 9, the staff there noticed some clinical signs. Hey, my pig's had diarrhea, call the vet. Well, now we can do something. So we place a site under biocontainment. We stop all traffic, all people. We rush samples to the lab. Within 24 hours, we have results. It's PD positive. Now think of all the ramification of this. Every contact point you've had during those days, and everywhere you probably have spread PD, potentially have spread it. So this is what we're facing. When I'm talking about biocontainment ahead of time, we need to minimize all of that. We just have to assume barns have disease even when we think they don't. So what does it look like? Showering out. It's not just so we smell good. It's so we don't bring disease to our vehicles, to our office, to the next farm. That is critical, not just showering in, but showering out. Disinfection of tools. Again, training people. People are very well aware. When I bring something into the farm, I have to soak it so it doesn't bring anything in. Same goes when you bring it out, if you have to bring it out. A CAS line, so that's a word we have in Manitoba. So it's a control access zone. And that would be your yard. And with fighting PED for too many years, what we discover is PED is pretty much when you have a barn that breaks, it goes through the fans. And the whole area around the farm is positive for PED. So if your vehicles are parked right by the fans, what happens is you contaminate your vehicles. Your staff vehicles, your service providers' vehicles, believe me, it's covered in PED. And then everywhere they go, they have the potential to bring cross-contamination. So we park now really far from our farms. We take a little healthy walk every morning, and it will be a quarter mile, half a mile sometimes, no matter the weather. It's not good in winter. But that's something we've really come to enforce now. The only vehicles that cross will be your livestock truck and your feed truck, or that they have to cross that CAS line. We also consider where pigs are going. If they would be positive, let's imagine, what would we put at risk? Where are we reusing that trailer? So for example, again, I'm using High Life system. We protect our sow barn. There's no trailer that goes to the plant that come back to a sow barn. But when it comes to nursery, we will move feeder pigs from a nursery to a finishing, deliver those pigs, and then that trailer will be reused into a finishing to do a load of market hogs without a wash, same flow. But then we consider, okay, if that nursery load was positive, where am I going to bring that truck? So we try to keep it in what we call a high-risk PD area. You don't send that truck into a clean negative, negative, negative area. We also look at neighbors around. Is it a sow barn? Who is it? And then we try to minimize if PD would happen. Once we suspect disease at a different level of biocontainment, now we go into the stop movement. Nothing is moving in and out of a farm that we suspect. And I'm not saying confirm. I'm saying as soon as we have a suspicion of an event, and we're really quick on that one, we prefer to stop everything. It's about 24 hours for us to get results for PD, so we prefer to stop everything for 24 hours, cancel loads, stop people, and then we resume once it's confirmed negative. And that includes movement to slaughter. We do not move PD pigs in Manitoba. We have no visitors, no dead stock pickup. Everything will resume if it's confirmed negative. So what does it look like for us? A little bit more concrete example. Downtime, that's for everybody, including finishing barn. So we have downtime for boar stud, for multiplication, for sow, for nursery, and we also have downtime for finishing. We have shower in, shower out in almost every single facility in High Life. I say almost, there's a few older finishing barns that we still haven't got shower in, but we've invested a lot of money in shower in, shower out, proper shower in, shower out facility also, a one-way showers. Because there was tons of farms that had showers, but it's kind of in an office and it's more for the smell, I guess, so you smell good at the end of the day. Danish entry, we have sites with multiple finishing barn and an office, so we have a good shower there process. And then we call it blue clothes. We have yard clothes that the staff will wear to the barn. Then they change into barn clothes. And then as they go to the multiple barns, they will change in their yard clothes again, walk to the barn, put their barn clothes. We're doing biocontainment at a site level. We also want, if ever one of those finishing barn on a site gets positive for PD, we don't want the whole site to have PD. We want to contain it to one barn. That's our objective. So we do a lot of biocontainment on a site, not just at an industry level. Dead stock, we look at it. Transport of trailers. Manure spreading is one we spend a lot of time too. What's the risk? When is it happening? We send notification around. And then we monitor for health and then biocontainment in case of disease. So our monitoring is very stringent. And I like the discussion here where it was going to say, well, are we missing case? So that is definitely something we have to worry about with PD, because PD in a finishing barn is not always obvious. So one thing we do in Manitoba is we have two federal slaughter plant, and the ramps are tested every day. So every day pigs are delivered, the ramps are tested for PD, and we know with that some kind of assessment of what's going on in the industry. And I can tell you we don't miss a lot of cases. It's extremely rare we get a ram positive without knowing where it's coming from. We also, because we've been through 3 big waves of PD over the last couple of years, we're now testing our high-risk area at all time. Every week, we collect samples from finishing, nursery, and sow barn for PD. And you might say, well, that's a lot. Yeah, it is a lot, but if we miss a case, the impact of that is so much worse than spending money in a little PCR test once a week. So we do test currently all our nursery finishing and sow barn site in that high-risk area every single week. And what we do for that is we use, so there's a pictures of saliva there. We don't use that as much as in the past. We now move on to booty sample. So it's very simple, very easy for the staff. So what you do is you take those blue booties there, the one that are absorbent, so they're not good for biosecurity if you're trying to protect your shoes. And that's how we discover actually those booties. So you wear those booties, you do your chores in the barn like usual, step in a few pens, drag your dead pigs out of the pens if you have, check your waters. And then the staff takes those booties, put them in a little Ziploc with some distilled water, shake that, put the water in a tube, send for testing. Extremely cheap and one PCR only, but I can tell you it's extremely sensitive. So that's what we're using the most right now to test. What extra do we do? So our PD season is really not what was shown on those slides. We're opposite to the US, apparently in Manitoba. So our PD season typically in the past was summer. So for us, it started in May. It ramped up in June, July. We have a little, it goes down, and in August, we have a little spurt there. So that's been typical for us. What you're seeing there is a lot of lime on that further picture there. We limed the entrance of so people step in it. That black fabrics there, that's I don't know if it works. I have no science behind it. That's a desperate move, but we're trying to filter. We know dust is part of our issue in Manitoba. We have large farm. When they break, excreting a lot of virus, no trees, flat country, and a lot of wind. So we know that's part of our issue sometime in the spread. So we're trying to stop the spread of dust. So it's garden fabric in this case. We now move to a pre-filtered, and we're trying to stop that from, so we install that on our air intake and stop the dust from coming. The dust control, so that truck there, we have a lot of gravel roads, gravel yards, so we dust control all of that in early in spring. And so just again to minimize that dust, we lime the CAS line and everybody parks really far. We're now investing in High Life because we've had too many complaints, and I believe like it's hard to walk half a mile. We also get really cold winter, so we need to plug in our vehicles. When you park that far, that was really hard for the staff. They could not plug their vehicles, so we're now investing in a parking spot with plug-in and a shed, heated shed, so people can properly change their footwear and their jackets, plug their vehicles, and then walk to the barn. Part of biosecurity is about sharing information. And again, that was really well discussed already by the previous speakers. We need to know the health of the pigs in the area so we can make better decisions. So the sharing of that information is critical. For us, we send notice of disease found. So PED, it's a provincially reportable disease, but it doesn't take that for us to start texting our other companies around or vets. We let people know of PRRS or influenza in Manitoba, so vet producers in the area. We have monthly call, and that was in 2017 when it was our first terrible PD wave. It was a daily call at one point with the province, our Manitoba Pork Board would be there, and then all the vets involved. And that evolved into a weekly call and eventually a monthly call. And we've kept those calls even when PD was not an issue at all. When we got to 0 case, we saw so much value in just sharing and discussing information. And when we don't talk about PD, we talk about influenza, or we talk about Seneca Valley, or we talk about ASF. There's always something about pig health and what we can do as an industry about it. But why is it so hard? Why is prevention and biosecurity so hard to, if we all know it's good and that's what we need to do? Part of what we're facing is, I know for us in our system, and it's probably true for everybody, it requires constant effort. It's not something you do one day and then you're done with it. It's a check mark on your to-do list. And it seems like a lot of work and money, and it is a lot of work and money to maintain it. And it is not rewarding to do biosecurity. If you do it perfectly, the results is nothing. Like, how can you convince anyone? Think of you doing your job, you're giving your 110%, and then your boss comes and say, if you do everything perfect, I'm not going to pay you, but I won't deduct your salary. It's what we're facing. We're trying to convince people to do the right thing so we get nothing in exchange. And then how do we measure the return on investment? I really like Dr. Allis. He has some numbers there. That's what we need, because we don't know how many outbreaks, if everything goes well, and we spend all that money on biosecurity and CAS line and in the shed and then truck wash, but then there's no outbreak, then we're questioning, did we really prevent everything, or it was just that it was a good year? How many outbreak did we save? We don't know that. And then if there's an outbreak, everybody gets disappointed, say, but we did all that good work. Yes, but biosecurity is not simple. So my key message here today are, Biosecurity is more than just controlling what's coming into a farm. We really need to address what's coming out of our barns. And then to be successful as an industry, biosecurity, so bioexclusion and biocontainment are critical, but not just for the top of the pyramid. It's critical for all of our herds, including the finishing barn. And it's so much easier to not get PD when there is no PD in your area, believe me. When nobody has it, it's higher chance that nobody will get it. And remember, we can only be as strong as our weakest link with biosecurity, so we need to address that weakest link. And that's it.